approve the minutes. A second will allow us to discuss or make any changes or addendums to the or request. Do we have a motion to approve the July minutes?
I'll make a motion. to
The
approve.
minute. Thanks, Vince. A second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Pam. Any additions, edits, or anything you want to make comment on from the group? Anyone want to make note?
I have a couple corrections and one question. So first of all, under old business, green should have an E at the end. And also there's no attendance on the minutes. Have we dropped that, or I think there should be attendance records as part of the minutes.
Agreed.
And I don't know who was present at that meeting, but I think it should be included. And then the other question I have is that if something in July was tabled until August, wouldn't that have been the June minutes as well? Like now I'm wondering if the June minutes ever got officially approved. So that's my question. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure, Austin, are you aware if we had approval on the June minutes?
Austin he just sent us a note in the chat that he got kicked off, and I'm not sure why.
Okay. I don't have the June minutes in front of me, and that's where I would have noted that. So I don't know if anyone has any other record of that. Okay. So we can add the attendance. Shane, were you here in July 6th?
I don't believe I was.
Okay.
And that was an in-person.
It was, right.
meeting.
Yep. Okay, so we will add to those minutes if that's all right. We'll make sure attendance is part of that. I think that's when Austin took over, so we'll include that. And then as far as June, we would have approved those at the July meeting.
I just want to say that Austin has to end this meeting in order to rejoin.
We're going to get kicked off.
And so we might get kicked off, although I don't know if Austin can hear me, but I'm pretty sure that if he re-enters by using the, if he has a meeting number, he should be able to yeah. Oh, well.
Okay.
Rob, you're currently the host.
I don't know how the hell that happened.
You probably were co-host or an alternate host, and when Austin got kicked off, that's what happened. It automatically reverted to you. So I'm pretty sure that if Austin can hear us or see us, that he can re-enter without having to end and start the meeting all over.
All right, let me see if.
Pam's our on-site technical support.
I became a Zoom master in the past year running events for Yale, and I got kicked off once as a host. But I was able to get on without the whole workshop even knowing. He might be having internet connection problems.
Are you gonna call?
So Austin's going to call in. I'll let him in as a panelist.
Oh, there he is. Yeah, you can. So Rob, if you go to attendees, and if you go, Austin is now under attendees, you should be able to make him a panelist. You should have that control now.
Yeah, I did. I put him over as a panelist and he's not there. Because Bruce is over. Here's Austin again. Let me try it again. Promote to panelist. Promote to panelist failed. Is the message I'm getting. So allow to talk. Let's see if he can do that.
Well, there he is.
Austin, are you able to speak?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we got
Yeah.
you. So it wasn't allowing me to promote you to panelist, but we
That's
can hear
okay.
you.
I can stay like that. So when you want to end the meeting, I can end the recording, it looks like from here. So that's good.
Okay.
We could do it like this.
Apologize. And I see Bruce, you've joined and we're through our technical difficulties. So can you hear us?
I can. I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you and your dapper photo when you speak. So
What's weird is it doesn't give me the option to start video.
You might be able to control that, Rob.
should be all set, Bruce.
All right.
You could ask me to join through video too.
Aloha.
Hi, Bruce.
Okay. Austin, I'll work on getting your video up as we get going here, but for the sake of time, we'll jump
That's
into
fine.
it. So the last question we had, and just want to get clarity on this. I believe at the July meeting, we approved the June minutes, or I think if actually maybe we were, either we hadn't received them. And Austin, maybe you can let us know if you're.
Yeah, I
if you
think in the July meeting, you would have approved the June minutes. We didn't have a quorum in August, so there were no minutes for August.
Right. Okay. Pam has asked that we add attendance to the minutes going back to last month as well, and we continue doing that. So for the July meeting, present was Vince, myself, Pam, MP, yourself, Austin, Bruce. Shane was absent. I don't know if anyone else attended for the July meeting.
I don't
And
think
then,
so.
I'm sorry, MP?
I don't think so. We were in the conference room at the senior center.
Yep. And then we want to make sure the correct spelling of Pam's last name is noted. There's an E at the end of Green. And then Pam, was there another item that you wanted? I think the question was really the minutes as well, right? Did I miss it?
Well, it was, I guess I wasn't certain which minutes we were supposed to be approving. It looks like there should be two different minutes. One for June that would have been tabled in July, and then also the July minutes. So we just need to track down or clarify what minutes we're doing. And the other thing, the other correction I would make is that under old business, it says Green stated that there is a concert at Salt Meadow this Saturday. I would not have known that. So I think someone else gave that information, not me.
Okay. We can strike that from the minutes if that's not material, if that's okay. Any other changes or additions to the minutes? Okay, so Austin will add the attendance, we'll correct Pam's spelling of her last name, and we'll strike old business 5B from the minutes. All in favor of those edits?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you all. Public comments, we don't have any other guests on here today, so I'm not aware of any public comments. As far as chair's comments, I think just a thank you to Austin and the staff for manning the gates. All the high school and college kids are, high school kids are on the weekends, but things have gotten light. And just thanks to everyone for your attendance tonight. I think we have a lot to discuss, and appreciate everyone's attendance and participation. So with that, we'll move into director's report. Austin will go over any departmental updates. We do want to go over spend versus budget, and we'll take a deeper dive on the beach season under old business. Allie's here to give us some feedback on that, and then obviously any incidents and projects update, and then we'll get into the old business item. So I'll turn it over to you, Austin.
Thanks, Rob. So department updates, we'll start with fall programming is up and running and classes have begun. So if you check out the Beach and Rec website, you'll see all the programs for September, October, November, even December and January are listed on there, and people are signing up. We've had people enough sign up for ski bus already, which doesn't start till January. So people are really thinking ahead, and I think everyone's ready to get back and start recreating like they were before. So excited about that. As far as the town campus gym, we are looking for people to work the gym as facility attendants. We will have the gym open for recreational sports and usually basketball after school in the next few months or the next month or so when the kids aren't playing outside anymore, when they want to come back inside. Talked to our health director, Trent Joseph, about reopening the fitness room. And due to the lack of ventilation in there, he's not recommending that we do so at this time. So the fitness room will remain closed, but when the time is right, we will open up the town campus gym, basketball, and other events that will require a recreation pass. So that look for more information to come with that as the seasons change.
Can I ask a question about that, Austin? I don't mean to interrupt.
Yes, sir.
Do
Go
you,
ahead, Vince.
you anticipate the basketball and pickleball programs to be ongoing in the town campus, or?
Yes, yep, 100%.
So both of those programs are in then, huh?
Yes.
Great. Sorry to
Yep.
interrupt.
Right now, due to COVID restrictions, you will have to wear a mask inside unless that changes. But we'll let everybody know if that changes right now. But yes, we plan on having, any programs that took place prior to COVID will be happening in the gym as they would have before. And we're excited about that.
Thank you.
Sure. Let's see, we have a concert on the green this Sunday at 6 o'clock. And I think Vince put in an email to Rob and I earlier last week. The attendance has been fantastic at the Sunday concerts. well over 400 people are attending pretty much every Sunday. We've had great weather for these, and Carrie books tremendous acts to come and play on the green, variety of music, and it's a real family event down there. And folks enjoy it, go up to her repeatedly during the shows and say how much they love it. It's all ages, and it's just a great way to spend a Sunday evening on the green. And this Sunday will be, I think, a little extra special with the healing flags up on the green. So everyone who comes to the event who may not have stopped by the green to view the flags will have an opportunity to do that. So I'm excited about more people seeing those flags on the green than maybe would have. So those are, some of the highlights. Anybody have any other questions about programming or anything like that?
So Austin, what are the current protocols for indoor programs? Indoor masking?
So indoor, yeah, just masking.
Okay. And that's regardless of what you're doing, right? If you're waiting or if you're actively participating in something.
Correct. Yeah, anyone in a town building has to have a mask on.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Unless you're eating. So like at the senior center, we do have the cafe open, and people, limited amounts of people are allowed to have lunch in there, and they're allowed to take their mask off. We just separate them by 6 feet instead of 3 feet with a mask. So yeah, that's all.
Okay.
And Austin, are there any protocols for outdoor events at this point?
No protocols for outdoor events.
Okay.
As far as incidents, we had, over the summer, there's always some, vandalism, and we've had that in the past. I think it was a week and a half or so ago. We had some pretty vulgar language spray painted at the skate park down at the surf club. Yeah, pretty bad stuff. And the guys take care of it and spray over it with black spray paint. But it's the people using the skate park, unfortunately, that are doing that. It gets a lot of use. So I think we just need to figure out a way to, express to the folks using it that, they need to take pride in the facility down there and not ruin it for everybody else. So that along with the amount of litter that we've had over the summer at the surf club in general.
Austin, do
water bottles. Go ahead, Shane.
we have any surveillance of that area?
We have surveillance in the Strong Center area and then by the concession stand, but it's just everywhere. And the amount of water bottles and litter that the guys pick up every morning. And it's not from coming out of the garbage cans. It's people just throwing water bottles on Strong Field while they're playing on it. So I think that will be a project of mine going into next summer, is to, reach out to the youth community and try to get some like pridefulness in our facility and, respect what it is and the amount of use that it gets. And, as a resident of Madison, you should want your facility to be perfectly clean and not litter on it.
I was
So
more
I'm going to
thinking,
take that.
sorry, go ahead, Austin.
Go ahead, I'm done. Got you.
I was just going to say, I was really thinking more along the lines of video surveillance of the skate park. And if we didn't have it, is that something we should consider? If that's an area.
Yeah, so it would, it would be just another added cost, so we have to find some funding to put up cameras to do that.
Agreed.
You know, it's not gonna stop, so cameras are great, but it's a reactive thing. It's not gonna stop them from doing it in the moment. Unfortunately, so it would be a reactive thing where we would look at it the next day if we saw vandalism, and then, you know, try to figure out who's doing it. I'm not sure how successful we would be.
Well, it would give us an opportunity to actually prosecute someone for vandalizing, correct?
Yeah.
I think that would be a
I agree.
pretty good deterrent.
Yeah. I would like to give it a try the other way first, if you would allow that. Give me
Of
a
course.
chance to maybe get in front of some of these groups and just, you know, relay to them how, you know, they should want to care about their facility just as much as we all do.
It's not difficult to have the coaches of the youth teams that use the spaces to throw a box of garbage bags in their coach bag and you know, have everybody take 2 minutes to pick up at the end of a practice or a game.
Agreed. It's not so during the summer, it's not the sports teams, it's not the organized sports.
Mhm.
It's the kids that are just down at the surf club hanging out that do it. The sports teams in general are good about what they do.
That's
It's
good.
just the kids who are down there with their friends hanging out and throwing the ball around. Those are the ones that are littering.
Mm.
Some project updates. The light poles for the surf club basketball courts are in, so those will be getting installed shortly. We are waiting on the surveyor to survey Salt Meadow along the dog park area. So we know where one of the markers is. There's a real cement marker on the property that tells us where one of the property lines is, but there's nothing along Route 1. So we have to have a surveyor just make sure that when we're installing the dog park, we're doing it on our property, because there's a few feet off the road that's not owned by the town, that's owned by the developer on the other side of the trees at Salt Meadow. So we just want to make sure that when we're doing the dog park, we're doing it correctly, and we have all the property lines marked out for any future stuff. So that should be done in the next few weeks, and then we can move on some possible fundraising for the dog park. But if you go down there now, you'll see it staked out. We went and staked it out a couple weeks ago. It's big, so it'll be a big park for everyone to enjoy, fenced in and mulched in the area there. So we're looking forward to that. We've had a lot of positive feedback from the community. One of the reporters from a local newspaper did a story on it a few weeks ago, and people seem excited. It's great. It'd be great to have one in our town to take your dogs to.
Austin, an operational date? I mean,
I hesitate to give a hard date right now. It's going to take some fundraising and town funds on top of that to make it happen. But I would say, you know, confidently that we can be up and going for the spring.
and the basketball, the lights, what's your target date for that? Not to hold you to
In
it.
the next 3 weeks, by the end of September, should be ready to go. So the issue, not the issue, but the holdup is the bolt patterns are different on these lights than were the old ones. So we may have to do some drilling or move the cement just a little bit. So that's the holdup there. The Big Belly garbage cans should be in the next 2 weeks for downtown. So that'll help us with garbage, and we'll be able to remove some of the bins and replace them with the big bellies. I'd like to give a shout out to the guys in the grounds crew who have done the downtown trash pickup since July 1. I know I've had 0 complaints, and no complaints have gone to the first selectwoman's office compared to past years when we would be inundated with garbage complaints downtown. The guys really care about what they're doing and have pride in their job, and don't want to see on Facebook that the garbage is overflowing in the downtown area, even when it was not the town guys doing it. People perceived that it was the town crews doing the garbage in the years past. So they felt some responsibility and pride going into this year, knowing that, they make sure that the downtown area is clean, no garbage overflows. They check it first thing in the morning, and these big bellies will have, an even bigger impact, so they can know when the cans are half full, a quarter full, so they can, go down when needed if it's during an off time or after they've already completed their run. So, just, on behalf of the department, they did a great job this summer with that. We are meeting Wednesday to discuss some projects with an engineer who does projects for us. We'll discuss the exit road at Surf Club down on Exchange Field, so we could develop plans and priorities for that. The Bauer Walkway, we are still waiting on guidance from the state as to if the job has to be prevailing wage. And once we have that information, we'll be able to put out the job for people to bid on it. And that's it. If anybody has any questions about anything, be willing to answer those.
Yeah, do you know what?
And then we could,
I'm sorry.
go ahead, Vince.
Maybe an update or status on the I hate to sound like a broken record, the renovations of the tennis courts and pickleball courts on the town campus?
Sure. So we have the contractor who does the courts for us coming out in the next couple of weeks to look at the cracks, filling them, and doing some maintenance on them. And then it's in the CIP for 23-24, I believe. So another couple years for it to be like re-engineered and hopefully adding additional courts down there and changing the configuration a little bit to make that better. But they're going to come down in the next couple of weeks and look at what they could do to, fix some of the cracking issues that are there now to get us through to that 23-24 date when we can do a refurb.
Yeah, I get asked this all the time. That project seems to have been moved back because of budget restraints or constraints, I should say, and COVID issues, whatever that means. Is there any way that we could move that back up? I mean, the courts are, as you know, you've been there, you and I visited together, and they're in pretty bad shape.
So I think we got to see what the contractor can do to bring them back to good shape before we, spend money in the CIP that is planned out for 23-24. As I've been told that it was moved out. It was supposed to be earlier, but then got moved out in consideration of other projects. So I don't believe we can move it forward in the dates, but know that we're working on, fixing what's there. And if they can confidently fix the issues with the cracking, I think we could survive until we could do the reconstruction of it.
Okay. Is that Hendig?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
not necessarily a project, but, from an update standpoint, in the context of projects, priorities, what's currently on the list, how do we make adjustments? How does things like Henri or Ida, how does Beach and Rec decide when we need to order sand to replenish the beach? I mean, I guess looking for an update, Austin, as to what your involvement was. You were pretty busy, but how do we prioritize our projects and where are we at with storm recovery?
Yeah, so if you went down to West Wharf on Thursday morning, you would have noticed a lot of sand was missing at the initial beginning of the beach area, more than has ever been taken away by a storm since that I can remember. We did have a small area that was the first storm, so that was earlier in the summer, and we were able to rake it and pull everything back and make it so you didn't know what happened. This time, DPW went down with the loader, scraped and raked as good as we can. Then the guys raked it with our beach comber. It will require sand, and that has to be put on a list of projects to do to get ready for the next beach season. But we're still in, even though we're outside of Labor Day, it's still beach season. Surf Club and West Wharf and East Wharf were hopping today with people. So that's something we will look at with between DPW and our grounds guys, how we can get sand in there to replenish what we lost.
So is that a Department of Public Works responsibility, or is it a Beach and Rec responsibility and DPW does the work? I mean,
It'll be Beach and Rec. Our guys can do it. When it was as bad as it was, our equipment would be able to do that, but DPW came down that Friday and did it that morning, the best that they could. So it will be a Beach and Rec project to do. Yeah.
so there may be opportunity for us, and we've had these discussions, how do we as a commission look at and just constantly review what are the projects, where are we at, and do we all have a handle on what's being pulled forward, being pushed back? And, I think about the discussion we had about the kayaks. There was a lot of discussion about waiting lists, and there was really opinion and thoughts around what's best for the majority of residents. And so how do we look at the projects and just understand, are we as a commission aware of and supporting projects that benefit the residents? I personally don't feel I've got a great handle on that, and that's on me, but how do we as a commission just make sure that if any resident were to ask us what are our top 5 projects that the commission is involved with, that we're all on the same page? Any comments or any other questions on projects? So hearing none, just to back up a second, Austin. So one of the items on the director's report is spend versus budget. The fiscal year just started in July. It's only 2 months in. How are you operating with Stacy, and how can we help out, or how do you think that should be showing up at the commission level?
So I think there's a couple ways that we can do it, and I've done it different ways for departments that I've been in. I can give you all and print out for you or email you what we spent and what's left for each bucket that we have. I can talk to you about places where we think we may need to add additional funds or do line item transfers as we get closer to June. So I think we're a little early for that right now. Being only 2 months into the year, we haven't had anything out of the ordinary come up where we would have to spend money. It's your average everyday projects that we're doing. and things that were planned for. So nothing has come up where we had to, dip into funds that weren't planned. So when that happens, we will update you for that. But I think going forward, if you want me to include in the email of the agenda, just where we are, what we've spent, it's a quick report that I can run and send to you all. I could do that even after the meeting today, and you can see if it's interests you or not. That's completely up to you. I'm flexible. I could do it either way.
Yeah, I'd defer to the other commission members. Where we landed previously was just on a quarterly basis. Are we where we thought we would be? I don't think anyone wants to get into line item transfers or I think it's just about having an understanding that the budget is X. We should be, at Y, and how are we doing? And I think it's just to make sure that we have that muscle memory and we're having that discussion. I don't know if there's other comments from the group, or if you don't feel that's necessary, then we don't have to do that.
I could send out, why don't I do it for the October meeting, and we could go quarterly after that.
That would be great. If there's no other questions or comments on projects or incidents or just overall department needs, we can move into old business. Okay. So Allie's joined. Thank you for your patience and joining us this evening. So we thought we'd have some discussion just overall from a review. Allie is supervisor of the staff this summer. She's been on board for several years. And this is really for both Allie and Austin to kind of give us an update and for us to ask some questions about what worked well and where would we want to focus for improvements moving forward. So Austin, if you and Allie want to open it up, we'll hear from you both.
Thanks, Rob. And Allie, thanks for joining us tonight. So before I dive into the numbers and attendance and beach pass sales, I think it's important to recognize Allie and her staff this summer. So I didn't know what to expect from the staff at the surf club. I've never been in charge of them before. I've worked with them in a past life, but when I went to the first all staff meeting down at the surf club with everybody who was working for us this summer, Allie had a full training set up that involved the staff manual, set up all the chairs. They got breakfast for each other, and her and the other supervisory staff did just an amazing job explaining the staff manual in detail to everyone. I think in future years that would have landed on my shoulders, or in past years, sorry, that would have landed on the shoulders of somebody working in the department year round. And for her to have been prepared like that was amazing. I never would have expected that. And then throughout the summer, she kept track of all the tallies at the gates and developed Google Docs to share. That made my job that much easier. Sharing the staff Google Docs, so people can look at who's scheduled and who's supposed to be where they're supposed to be. She developed a QR code, which I promise you I couldn't have done, to have the staff could scan that QR code and they can get access to the end of year materials, the calendars. And I never had to worry about what was going on down there. She had it covered from day one and made my sort of my beginning as the new director really smooth, and I was able to rely on her to make everybody's beach experience as pleasurable as it could be. The staff were great. You always have a few issues with staff in the summer. You're dealing with high school kids and college age adults, and but I think in the past some of the staffing issues would have fallen on myself or the assistant director, and Allie, was fully confident in handling those on her own and making great decisions, and working out any issues. And, I was really impressed with the way that Allie and everybody else made it through the summer, and just thank her for doing that. And everybody who came to the beach this year should also appreciate the staff that's there. They work long hours in the heat, walking around the facilities and driving to the different beaches, and they just do a great job, and proud to have them as part of our department.
Great.
Allie, anything you want to add before I jump into the numbers?
Well, thank you for saying all that. I appreciate it. And I think that this year went extremely well. In the past, we've had an outside adult who's never worked at the beach be a supervisor, and it basically entailed all of us trying to train them. And that was a little difficult for us to have to tell an adult kind of what their job responsibilities were. So I think this year it worked well. I didn't really know what I was doing at first, but I think everything went pretty smoothly, as smooth as it could have gone. And yeah, I think we all got along fairly well. So that was good.
Allie, you promised to come back next year.
I do. I'm off for the summers because I work at a school. So I do want to come back next summer.
Great. Great. We're going to hold you to that. Great.
Well, Allie, I think you bring up a good point. Having worked there previously, you kind of understand things, and I think that makes a big difference. So thanks for taking that on. That's good feedback. Anything else that stands out, if you had a wish list, that you would say we absolutely need to start doing or stop doing?
I would say, well, the one thing that I think was a little confusing was selling day passes. We started off at the surf gate, and then we transitioned to selling it from the office. And for non-residents, there was a lot of confusion because last year with COVID, there were completely different rules. The year before that, we used the online system. So I think just making sure the website and Facebook page is putting out a lot of information, just being very clear with the rules and how it's being run. And then if we continue to sell day passes at the office, just having extra signs maybe up at the surf gate with the pricing for everything, and telling you where to go, having a sign at the circle so they know to turn in there, which we ended up getting. But it's kind of an unofficial sign. But I think that would help a lot. It would help with the confusion, because people definitely got a little aggravated, which I totally understand. So
It's great feedback. Thanks. Any other questions for Allie or any other feedback? Okay. So Austin, you had some numbers you wanted to review?
Yeah, so this year we sold, so this is non-senior. So non-senior resident passes, we sold 3,536. And you don't have to write this down. I'll send you guys a document too, so you can have it. Senior passes, we sold 3,617. So a total of 7,153 Madison beach passes. So those are the yearly pass that residents can purchase. On top of that, residents are able to buy the daily tags. So they can use them for their guests. They give their guests the daily tags, and we sold 2,845 of those. And the non-resident tags, which anyone not from Madison can purchase on the day of use, was 791. And I know, Vince, you asked for comparisons to 2018, and we're going to get that for you. That was a little difficult to pull up in Rec Track today. We will get those numbers and compare them.
I have that as a report. I can send that, what I have, we can compare notes.
That would be great.
Okay, I'll send that out to you.
And then, so,
I think
in
those numbers are
total-
higher than 2018.
I would bet you they are.
Yeah,
In total, we had 37,348 vehicles entered the beaches. And there really was only one day, which was back in prior to Memorial Day, when it was the first like hot, beautiful day of the summer, and Hammonasset closed. And that's when we had the giant backup at Surfgate, with Hammonasset sending everybody to east and west and surf. And Hammonasset didn't let anybody know they were closing until it was apparent with the line at the gate. So we took initiative and went to Hammonasset, met with the people down there, and they still never, hopefully they called the surf club, but I never got notified. But I followed on Twitter, the Deep Twitter account, so it would alert me to when they were closing. And only happened twice this summer. So I think that helped. And the fact that we did not sell them the daily tags at the gate sort of prevented the big lineup from occurring. So Hammonasset closed twice. East Wharf and West Wharf closed. East Wharf closed 3 times for very small periods of time, and West Wharf closed 4 times, again for small periods of time throughout a day. And so knowing, I worked the gates this past week for a few times to let people take breaks, and then all day Thursday and Friday this past week. And it is not an easy job. I know people probably see, a kid sitting in the gate telling you to come on through. But it is a constant parade of vehicles entering, and you need to know all the information about where to go to eat, what time things open, what's happening around town, where people can and can't park. And it's definitely not a relaxing gig to be a gate guard. So, I have a whole new appreciation for that as well. And I think we can, being on the gate for, those hours over the last week, will allow us to, I think, make some changes going into next year and sort of help the staff not have as many questions. So signage, I think, as Ali said, is important. But, I think overall, in conclusion for the Beach Pass discussion, the season went great. A lot of people came in and out of the beaches. I think the one thing we need to look at for next year is staffing. These jobs that we have as gate guards and facility monitors and beach staff are all high school and college age kids, and they go back to school prior to Labor Day, all of them, regardless of high school or college. And it's very hard to guard the gates after the last week of August. And I know it's what town residents want, to be able to have the gates guarded, so only those with beach passes are getting in. But staffing is extremely difficult when all of our students are gone. So we made it work. We had some people who were going back later. But, it's darn near impossible to guard all three beaches continuously after, say, the last week of August. But, you know, we will do our best next year to, again, try to make that happen. We prioritize East Wharf, or West Wharf, excuse me, because that's the most limited amount of parking. And I do have some ideas going into next year, how we can have some better communication with the hotel and hotel staff to try to free up some spots. And but yeah, I think overall I'm very satisfied with the way it went, and all of that satisfaction can be relayed back to the staff that were down there. They did great.
As far as lifeguards, that was a big request. Second year we brought them back. Any feedback on how that worked out? Any number of, you know, first aid or rescues? I mean,
So we had one big rescue. That was at the beginning of August, Allie?
Yes, I think it was the first week of August.
So we had a group of I think it was 12, 13-year-olds swam out to the buoys. A group of them made it back who were strong swimmers, and a group could not make it back who were very weak swimmers. And the lifeguard staff sprang into action, you know, did all the appropriate calls on the radio, jumped out and dragged everybody back to safety. It went perfectly. There's always communication that could be done better, but in the heat of the moment, when you're trying to go out and save three, 12-year-old, 13-year-old kids, it went as good as you could possibly have it go. The guards afterwards, we all sat down with Allie and David and myself, and we, at least with two of them, we talked about how it went, and I think they deserve applause for that. A situation that could have been ended up with a horrible ending ended up just fine, and that was the only one that I think I was aware of, unless Allie could add anything to that.
Yeah, that was the only big save. We had typical like getting stung by jellyfish or cuts on their feet. And I mean, I know that we only wrote 24 incident reports throughout the whole summer, and the majority of them were not first aid related. They were like other issues that had happened. So that's pretty small compared to, I think the year before we had like 100 or close to that. So yeah, we didn't have that many bad injuries. So that was really good, and not really any issues with the water. And like people like drowning or not being able to swim or anything like that.
okay. And then one final question. Total beach pass sales. Do you have that number? Or maybe you gave it and I missed it.
So I could do the math quick, just by the numbers that I gave. So we did. So if we sold 3,536 $40 passes, that would be 141,440. The senior passes are $10. That would be 36,170. The resident daily passes are also 10. That would be 28,450. And the non-resident daily tags, that's going to throw me because they're different prices during the week and on the weekend. But we can figure that out.
Austin, don't we for the non non-senior resident passes, if they bought multiple within the family, there would be different prices, right?
Yeah, so you're right. So first car, second car, third car, fourth car.
Yeah, so
So thank you,
Yeah.
Shane. Yeah, so I would scratch that, but it's
So
pretty
Austin,
close
yeah,
to that number.
we don't need an exact revenue number tonight. I was in conversation with Austin. I was alerted to a discussion that was going on, and it was and this is not the first time we've had it, the cost of the passes and it should be free, and what's it cost to run. I think it's going to be important for us to understand, and I think this goes back to Bruce actually making this comment. It's not a profit center. It's subsidized by those people that use it, but we are going to want to get clear on revenue generated versus the actual operating costs, that's going to take some time too, Austin, just to figure out what were the seasonal operation costs for the beach. But that is a number that we'll want as a commission to understand and report back out to the community. So no need to do the math now.
Yeah, we'll be able to, for the next meeting, once the last payroll goes in, we'll be able to have all that for you.
Great. Okay. Any other questions about the beach season or any needs or requests that the group has?
Just one quick comment. Did we do any volume or sales revenue on the surf club venue? Like wedding?
That's still ongoing. That goes right up until December or so. So that's a rolling number that changes from like April through end of November
Okay.
in terms of rentals.
Yeah, that's what facilities rental.
Yeah, if you want, I could do an update for
No,
next meeting
No,
on.
yeah, next meeting. Yeah, I have a report that lists all the, goes back 2 years of facility rentals, recreation passes, all the revenue income from beach and rec, and how it breaks out. I can send you that, which I think is a pretty interesting report. Just as a help.
Yeah, let's do that, Vince, and
Okay.
then just how Austin wants to present it and look at it,
Okay.
because that would be a good thing for us to use as a comparator if you already have a baseline. Okay. If it's okay, maybe we can move to the sailing program discussion, and then we can move over to the survey. So Vince has brought this up. We had some discussion previously before Austin took over. Let me just level set that we don't know what we have for a current state of inventory. We don't have someone necessarily ready at the helm to run the program. And there was some expressed concern on liability. A couple residents have asked about it, and then a commission member, Vince, had asked about it. And maybe we can plan on about 15 minutes of discussion just to see what Vince, maybe you can kind of kick it off with your position, and then maybe just understand from the commission. And then, Austin, I think it would be important for you to kind of weigh in as well. Maybe something's already underway, or maybe you've already made a choice. So, maybe, Vince, if you want to just speak a little bit about what you brought to the commission, and then maybe we can hear Austin's position, and then a few minutes discussion. Vince?
Yeah, the only reason, yeah, I as you mentioned, I sent a letter out to you and Austin, and I think the other members of the commission, and there was some discussion, or some kind of, some discussion that we might cancel or not have a sailing program going forward. And for some reason, that just kind of just doesn't sound like something that Madison should do. And I don't know what the registration was in 2018, but I know from a personal standpoint, my grandson and some of his friends were involved in it, and they really liked the program. And I know they were very disappointed this year that they weren't involved we weren't having a program. I know that Guilford has one. I know Clinton has one. Branford has one. Essex has one. Old Saybrook has one. I know we have over 200 sailboats that are sitting there with the parents and kids that enjoy sailing, and many of them don't know how to sail, And I think it would almost be, I would use the word irresponsible for us not to continue to offer that program to the young people in town. I just think being a shoreline community and the other communities having programs, that Madison should be on the top of that list. So that's my 2 cents. I just don't know why we would not continue having that program. This reminds me a little bit of the discussion we used to have about lifeguards, as a matter of fact. And I think we just need to put a little bit more emphasis or effort behind finding the right person to implement that program. And I think if we did, we would find a great sailing instructor and make it happen. I know Joe Manganiello would send me a message and say, we need to have that program, because Joe started that program many years ago. And I don't think it's something we should stop. So that's my 2 cents.
Thanks, Vince. Austin, from your perspective, before we open up discussion, you want to share any, where you're at with this, if any place, you don't have to have any.
So, Scott reached out to Clinton, and Clinton did not run their program this year either. So I think, as Rob said in the beginning, the inventory of boats we have, they haven't been used for 2 years now. They were old and needed repair prior to that as well. And then, as Vince said, Joe Manganiello ran the program for many, many years, and it was, immensely successful. And, can't be his enthusiasm and ability to teach and fix the boats can't be replaced. So I think, I put out some feelers so luckily we have some staff at the surf club who are involved in collegiate sports, and one of them is on a sailing team or a rowing team and has a lot of interaction with the sailing team at her school. So she is going to reach out to some of her friends there who live locally to see if they're interested in sort of taking over the program. But it is, Vince used the word irresponsible. I think it's irresponsible for us to run a program without the right person that has so much liability attached to it. And I think I need to, and you all need to be comfortable with the person that we hire. It can't just be, it's different than hiring a Pilates instructor or a dad to coach rec basketball, or someone to teach pickleball. This is a job and a program that has real life risks associated with it, and parents are putting their kids in the hands of an instructor out on an open water situation. And from my standpoint, if I'm not completely comfortable with the person who's going to run it, then I would rather not run it than to put kids in jeopardy out on the water with someone who I don't think is capable and has the background enough to run it to the level that we would be satisfied.
Any other comments? Anyone want to weigh in or just have any thoughts or opinions on this?
I just want to say one other thing then. So it seems to me that it's an issue of finding the right person to make this program work and successful and quote responsible for the young people who want to sail or learn to sail in Madison.
I think it's before that, Vince. I think given the
So what I'm
state
suggesting is that we put an extra effort on finding the right person, as we had done in the past, to make the program work. In other words, let's not say there's no sailing program next year. Let's say there is a sailing program if we can find the right person. And with all, obviously with Austin's criteria to run the program.
No, Vince, I'll challenge back that I think this is where the commission would say, this is a priority. We think we should have it. We believe in it. Therefore, we'll do the work to determine what the cost would be upstart to get the inventory, what it would cost for an instructor, what it would cost for liability. And then we would say as a commission, is this something that we'd recommend to take on as an additional expense and responsibility and liability? And then if that's the case, you set up a job description of what the criteria would be. I don't think it's fair to say, let's recruit someone and tell them to go plan it. You know, we had a gentleman who retired from the Coast Guard who said he'd be willing to donate and contribute. And when asked if he could help guide us through the process, you know, he just didn't have that level of availability. So I don't think we go find a person and then work backwards. I think the commission says this is what we want to do. We want to offer it, and we're going to get behind it. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying that's how I would. I'm not sure the commission supports it.
So is that, Rob, are you suggesting that that's something that we've got to first make the decision on here as a commission, that we believe that
I think if the commission believed in it, that would be, I think we have to vet it and say, I mean, there is a question of liability. Does the town have the appetite for it? That's a reality that needs to be addressed.
But didn't we have that?
This is the
Didn't we have that?
This is the lifeguard discussion we had
Didn't we have that liability for many, many years?
before. Yes.
What's
We had a
changed
sailing
now?
program.
I don't know. I know
Well,
that
okay,
the
can I
former
step back for a
director
second?
expressed that it was a liability issue, let alone inventory issue, that we didn't have a fleet, and finally we didn't have someone to run it.
Okay, we had a sailing program in Madison to offer the Madison residents who wanted to learn how to sail.
Mhm.
We had that. We did not have it last year. So we are discontinuing. The issue is we have made a decision, consciously or unconsciously, to not have a sailing program next year. And my issue is, why are we not doing what we did the previous year? And the discussion about liability is we had the liability last year and the year before and the year before. So what has changed?
I don't know if something's changed. Scott Erskine
That's my question.
made it clear that
We
from a
can't,
liability.
what seems to have changed is we can't find somebody to run the program. And what I'm saying is we ought to put, and I'll make a motion if that's what it takes to say, we need to find someone. We need to put an extra effort like we did with the lifeguards to find someone to run the sailboat program.
So can I ask a different question? Do we have, is there budget for this? Because if we don't have, and if there's not, do we need to ask Austin how he would go about funding this, or do we have to go back to the first selectman or the board of selectmen and ask them for? And I don't know whether,
I
like,
think Shane,
do we take it out of the budget because we didn't have it last year? Is it just another part of the programs that we?
right, so it's a part of, as with any program that we run, it's funded by the registration. So all of the registration fees go towards maintenance, staffing, and the program itself. So I don't think it's a matter of budgeting. It's just a matter of, if we do it, we charge the correct amount of money to pay for the program, that's the way it was done in the past.
So do we know, prior to COVID, what did we have? Was this a solid program? Like, was this something that had
Yes.
a lot of interest and was
Yes.
filled, or was it undersubscribed?
So it wouldn't have run if it was undersubscribed. So you have to at least break even, if not turn a profit on the programs.
Okay, can I jump in here? So just to answer that question, yes, the program was 2 years ago before COVID. We did have a program. My grandson was in the program. Him and, how many, maybe 20 other folks were in the program. And then the program, because of COVID, was stopped obviously because of COVID issues. And this year, the conversation has been to discontinue the program totally because of liability, and we can't find the right person. And that's my only issue.
Well, this does, Vince, to your point before, sorry, Pam.
Oh,
To
Go
your
ahead,
point
Jim.
before, Vince, this does sound a lot like the conversation we were having about lifeguards. And it wasn't
Right.
until the commission made the decision that we needed to be we needed to start that hiring process much sooner, and we couldn't wait until the summer to get here. And we were able to, and I think we also made a decision to have the beach director or supervisor. So I think so it does sound a lot like that.
Right, exactly.
And we haven't had that discussion yet so nothing's canceled. It was just didn't happen this year, but there's been zero discussion or talk about not running it in the future. I think that's why bringing it up now, as Rob has, is appropriate to get the conversation and get the ball rolling going forward. So we haven't talked about, at least as far as I'm concerned, that we're not doing it. The conversation is starting now as to if we're going to do it, how we're going to do it, and figure it out.
well, and
I'm sorry, Pam, go ahead.
Okay.
Your turn.
I just have some questions about the past, so I can have a better context for where we might want to go. My two questions would be, Vince, do you know how much it cost for your grandson to take?
I don't know that.
You don't know what the cost was? Because I'm curious about what the cost was that we were charging for the program. And then the other question is the equipment, like what's realistic? How big was our fleet? How much disrepair is there? What would it take for us to just, to have the proper equipment or boats to even have the program and so we can start putting together a budget and a plan?
I think that's part of the discussion, is doing an inventory and looking at what we have, and working from there. Looking at every boat that we have down there, and is it serviceable? If not, to get rid of it so we can have a fleet that's capable of running the program.
And how many boats are
that's
we
what
talking
we
about? How many sailboats were typically in service to run the program?
So I know when I worked for Beach and Rec previously, we had, over 100 kids in the sailing program. So
Wow.
Vince said 20. If we had 20, I don't think we should do it.
I don't,
But if we have,
it looked like 20 to me. I don't know. I don't know
Well,
that.
but Vince, they also run multiple sessions, right? It's not just one.
right.
Well, can I ask you a question? Why don't we, shelve this for next discussion maybe, and do a little fact finding. How many people, as Pam has suggested, how many people registered for the classes in the past? How many people would be disappointed if we didn't have the program next year? Those kinds of things. What would it take to get the boats, ready for a sailing class next year, if that's what we decided we wanted to do? What condition they're in? I don't know that. I don't know any of those answers. All I know is that there's been some discussion about canceling the program, and I wanted to bring it up that I don't think we should cancel it. So
I think it's either a commission member, or we could ask Austin, do we ask the community, are there those interested in, working to reestablish the sailing program? And then I think it's beyond, I could be wrong. I think it's beyond the scope of this group to say we're going to take it on. And I think there's people in the community, and if they're going to raise their hand, past members, if they'd like to get involved, I think this is a great opportunity for a small group of people to get together, do some of the work, take the inventory, work with Austin, find out historically. Austin, I don't know if you want to do that or if you'd prefer just to do it yourself.
No, I'm open for all the help we can get. I think as we discuss the survey next, I think that could be a great question to include in the survey. And that'll tell us if we get a great response to the survey in terms of the number of people filling it out. If they've, marked on the survey that they're interested in a sailing program, then at least we'll have some ground to stand on when we're doing all the work for it.
I think I would just say that we've got to be careful with that. If and maybe someone else on the commission can refresh my memory. If I remember correctly, the demographics of the people that filled out the survey
Right, we're all
would
good.
probably not be the demographics of people that would be, unless it might be Vince for his grandkids, but it was an older population that made up the vast majority of responders. So I just wouldn't hang all of my, I think we've got to look at past registration numbers as the first starting point to see how popular the program was in the past.
Agreed.
I would say two other things. One is, fundamentally, we're a shoreline town. I think we should have a sailing program. That being said, I can 100% agree with you, Austin. We had the right person running it before. This is not something that you can just grab anyone off the street. So, but that's going to take, just like we did lifeguards, it's going to probably take additional effort to find the right person.
Okay, so is there an action item that we can take away from this, which is, Austin, is there a way to collect past historical data for the commission? And is there a way to, based on a survey, we don't want to be talking about this next March. We want to be moving on this before then.
100%. This, if we're doing it, we have to start now. And I think in October, I'll be able to give you historical data, number of people registered, age breakdowns. We should be able to do all that. So we'll have an idea, what the past was like and what potentially could be the future of the program. And I think beyond that, it's the inventory of the fleet.
Yeah, we talked about doing a communication, whether it was through the source or on the website, but we do need to communicate with the town and update, and that a survey's coming, that the beach season was a success, and that we're looking for people interested. So we'll talk offline on that and see if that's something that there's a way to get out, Austin. Okay. Well, good discussion. That was great. We said we'd give it about 15 minutes, and we're right around 20 minutes. So any other comments before we wrap this up?
So Rob, just one quick thing. I got an email from Graham. He said he had to jump off and go to another meeting. So if we want to book him for the next meeting, we could do that.
Okay. Great. Sorry about that. I didn't see that he was on. I would have moved him up. Okay. So the last item on old business was the survey. Just to level set the group, we had discussed about another survey. We had discussed Vince was going to review the questions, and we were going to have a discussion to see how much those questions needed or should change. Thinking that to use the past questions again would be the best way for a baseline, but we were open to adding or adjusting. So I know, Vince, you passed around the survey to the group. Vince, if you just want to let us know, you kind of took the lead on this. If you have any opening comments, and then we can have some discussion on people's feedback on the survey. And I do want to make note that Austin did reach out, that Peggy had made mention about the possibility and the timing of this survey so that we can get some insights sooner than later. And if there's any updates to that, Austin, you could weigh in as well. So Vince, just from your perspective, did you get feedback from me on the commission? Do you have any comments yourself based on the second survey going out, how different it may need to be?
As you said, I sent out the survey questions. I think there were 18 questions. Shane, help me on this if you would. 18 questions.
Yeah.
I didn't get any responses back in terms of what changes you wanted to make. So if we want to do the same survey and compare it to the previous year, I'm asking for the guidance of the group. I sent it out. I want me to send it out again, and we can,
Can you send
These
it back out,
questions
Vince?
hold up.
I'm sorry?
I think the questions hold up. I think that they were, broad in the right ways and specific in the right ways when we worked on them the first time. So going through them, I think that they hold up again
Okay.
in what we want to learn from people. And it does give us the opportunity to compare, although, a lot of things have happened between when the first one went out and when this one will go out, which I also, have been advocating pretty consistently. It should be sooner than later. We should make it an annual survey. We designed it with that in mind. So yeah, I think we can go with these without much adjustment, if any.
My only concern, MP, was that 2020, as we all know, was a kind of an interesting year. And are we comparing apples to rotten apples on 2020 in terms of what that year was all about? I'm just asking the question. I'm just.
To some extent, you're always going to be comparing different situations, right? Every year is different. The community is different. Events are different. But, if we look at the responses as general needs of the community, that we can get some guidance from that.
I understand. What I'm saying is, if you look to some of the questions, like which facilities do you use most often? In 2020, they hardly used any of the facilities. I mean,
sure,
everything was shut down. I'm just saying, even though we want to do this, should we wait for a full year to be completed and then do the survey?
We've kind of already waited for 2 years, right?
Well, I think it's a year. This was done in the end of December 13th, 2019.
It's 2021 now.
Well, I understand.
Yeah.
So the results were in 2020, the beginning first quarter of 2020.
I think we should, the timing to do it, I think, is now. I think we should get something back out. It's been, a year and a half or close to this December will be 2 years. I think it'd be good to get the feedback and compare against where we were and where we are.
And
I
if
agree.
people
I think
feel
there's a
that they
lot of
can't
new
answer the question,
families.
they'll say that.
I think a lot of new families in town could share their opinions. I would like to, if we can add maybe just one question of what are we missing? And what would you like us to offer that we're not offering? I think that would be helpful to Carrie and Matt so they can plan their programming for the future. Are we not doing something that people really want us to do? And if they're not vocal about it.
Number 12 says, what additional programs do you feel should be considered for the future? And then there's
Well,
a
there we go.
facilities question as well.
Yeah, I think that's important feedback because the programming staff just really want to know, going forward, has there been a change in what people want? And I think so. If that's in there already, then fantastic. And as I think MP said earlier, I think the questions are good and will get you responses that we need to improve and know where we're deficient in.
Are there any new, and I don't want to say issues, it could be anything, it could be good stuff that we don't touch on? Like, is there anything that are there any gaps that we would want to get, I guess, specific information on that we're not asking for? I know we have some general stuff like MP mentioned about programs, but I'm trying to think over the last
Mhm.
year and a half, whether or not there's been, obviously since the lifeguard was a big thing, right? That's a change. But I'm trying to think if there's any other major sort of events or significant pieces that.
I think I have to review the list of participation, but it's a great point, Shane. The Salt Meadow movies, the Sunday concerts, I'm not sure everyone understands that Beach and Rec sponsors that. So, and MP, maybe you're looking at that now, but I think we probably want to do a review or, through Austin, just make sure that everything that Beach and Rec is doing is on there. So people, they may not be using it, but if there's a list of things, at least they might say, I didn't realize how much Beach and Rec did. Can anyone think of anything else that Shane's brought up?
And maybe that's a question for Austin and, and his team, which is there any data points that they want, like information they want to get from the public that this survey wouldn't cover? I mean, again, we covered the program one, but is there anything else that specifically that we aren't asking about that you feel is important to improve your operations and support your staff?
Yeah, I'll talk with my team and see if there's any specific questions that they want to see answered that's not on here. But I think it's a pretty solid survey when you guys put it together. But having the team give some input would be nice.
Okay, so I'm thinking that we want to try and get this launched in October. We can work on a draft document that may go on the website, or we may submit it to the source that gives everyone a heads up that it's coming. Does that
Have we had a
seem-
conversation with the IT department yet on support for issuing this? Make sure
They'll
it's
be
on
able to
there.
do that.
I'm so glad you're
Yeah.
at this meeting, Shane.
Austin, did you ever get in touch with Rita? I know you and I were back and forth. Did she provide you, or did you get what you needed from what Vince had?
We got it. Yep, we got the answers. Yep.
Does that seem like a reasonable goal for this group, that we want to launch this survey in October?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe
So it
MP and I will work on a draft communication that kind of introduces and sets up the survey, and then we can circulate that and then find the right venue for that to be, so public's made aware of it. And then the group can add to that if there's anything. So we'll start on the draft. Okay.
And Shane, you did the implementation of this the last time, correct? You did the whole thing, I think.
Well, I didn't, all I did was once we got the dates of what we wanted to do is we met with the IT department and talked about, where we were going to advertise, where it was going to be posted to. And then we laid out a schedule that said it's initially going to be posted here. We're going to close, it's going to close on this date, and we're going to send out reminders to the public on these specific. So we should be able to go back to that plan and just repeat it and just update the dates.
Okay.
Mhm.
Can you help do that again?
Let me go see if I can dig back to the emails or my files
Great.
and see what I have. If not, it would be pretty easy to reproduce, but.
Okay. I mean, you're a more IT conversant than I am.
Okay, good. So that's an action. So I can either start a draft MP, or you can. We'll circulate that and then get that out to the group. We'll work with you, Austin, to make sure IT is ready, and we'll make sure the survey is updated. Any other comments?
MP, remind me of the woman's name who helped us with that, the web.
Rita
Rita. Okay.
Yeah. Rita Boland.
Okay. Thank you.
And Shane, I'll send you another copy of this.
Okay. Thanks, Vince.
Yep.
So that's all we had for old business. Under new business, unfortunately, our guest had to depart for another meeting. So we wanted just to get an update based on their work. I think the group was aware that a grant was approved. Bruce was in attendance for Garvin Point. As of right now, it meets half of the expense. I believe the town is, I can't say that the town has committed, Bruce, but I think the plan is the town would find the money to complete the project.
So that's correct. I think we're looking at a couple of different funding mechanisms, but at the very worst, we would do it in the CIP, the CIP budget.
And just from your perspective, that would be anticipated to start in 22, 23, 24?
Oh, I haven't gone back and looked at the exact scheduling. Austin, do you know offhand when it's in the CIP right now?
So it's going to take some engineering time, but I think it's in the next 2 years that it would happen. So I don't believe it's next year. I believe it's the following year.
It's a fairly urgent need, right?
Well, I think, relatively speaking, it's something we want to take care of sooner rather than later, although I'm not aware that the wall is in danger of a catastrophic failure. I think it's just at the end of its useful life.
Mhm.
Correct.
Great question, MP. I know that when Coastal Resiliency spoke, it was their priority project. It was what they felt was number one in town. The reason they were invited, and we'll have them next month, is, there's probably some opportunity for collaboration, or at least understanding, if we know what our priorities are relative to coastal resiliency as a commission, and we know what this group is working on, that wouldn't be a bad thing. We, at the opening of this call, Austin spoke about West Wharf, and I think he had said it was the worst erosion that beach has had. I don't know, Austin, if that's true. Not to say that it's a false statement. I just, where do we as a commission say we may want to understand, whether it's our beach or parks or Salt Meadow Park or a boat launch, where are we focused on that as far as protecting our assets? So we'll have that, and what we'll do is we'll put that up front on the agenda, so that out of respect for them, they can get on and kind of, they were going to give us a 20-30 minute presentation and then an opportunity for us to ask some questions. So
Rob, I can send you, he just sent me a community resilience matrix that they've put together. So that way you
Okay.
all can have a peek at it and review it and be able to ask questions when they come in October.
Great. Thanks, Austin. And by all means, if you have questions for that committee, when Austin sends it out, we'll have the contact. You don't have to wait for our meeting. We can get those questions up front and might help us have some discussion. So that concludes our agenda items. We'd be open for public comments, but I don't see that we have anyone else. Bruce, anything in general that you would like to speak or address the commission on?
No, I mean, I think, the discussion around the sailboats is a good one. I didn't hear any of the commissioners objecting in concept to the sailing program. You have a couple of unknowns that you need to get sorted out. And I have faith that if we could figure it out once upon a time, assuming we can find the right person to run it, the rest of the problems can be taken care of. The rest of the issues can be resolved, and the program could be reinstated. So I think that, as long as you guys are working in the direction of getting to yes, I have faith that you'll find a solution.
Great.
Thanks, Bruce. I think you said it a little more eloquently than I did, but I'm on your team there. That's the direction we need to move into. So yeah.
Great. Any other comments from the group? Otherwise, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
want to say thank you to Allie and to Austin for successful and congratulations on a successful beach season. So
Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Yep.
Any
Appreciate
other
it.
comments?
So Rob, when you end this meeting, up on the top left of your screen, it should
Mhm.
say live on YouTube.
Yep.
If you click on that arrow, it should say end recording. And then end the other recording as well. And then you'll be all set.
Great. I'll make sure I do that. Okay, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Second.
second,
all in favor?
Bye.
aye.
Aye.
Great. Thank you all for your attendance and your participation. Have a great week.
Thanks, everybody.
September. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Good
Take care.
night.